Hi guys, and welcome back to Sheddy's Kitchen. I'm Sheddy. Today I'm making my absolute favourite dish, and that is it's a bean curry specifically made of black-eyed beans. We call it white lobia. This goes really well with chapatis, with our paratha recipe as well, which I can include, and my naan bread recipe as well. It's both vegetarian and vegan friendly. Very low in calories as well, so perfect for you slimmers out there. So are you ready? Let's get cooking. So the first thing we're going to do is boil 400 grams of your black-eyed beans, and these need to be half boiled. So I'm just going to show you on here, so you know that they're half boiled. When you actually once you have half boiled them, you keep checking to make sure they are, but when you press down on it, you'll see what happens is it doesn't actually become mushy, but the bean does split in half. That will give you an indication that they're half boiled. Don't go any further than this because they will become too mushy by the end of the cooking process. So make sure you do that beforehand. So we're going to start with a high heat and a nice, we've got a saucepan here, so you use whichever saucepan you want. Nice high heat. And to that we're going to add 250 mils of sunflower oil. We're going to let that warm very slightly before we go ahead and add the onions. So that'll take something like 30 seconds to a minute to warm up before we add the onions. Okay, and I can start seeing the bubbles are starting to come up in the oil, so I'm going to go ahead and add 200 grams of chopped onions. Now we've just kind of diced these onions anyway, so I'll pop these in there, and what we're aiming to do here is to get the onions very slightly brown. We don't want them too brown. We will come back and show you. So once I've popped these into the oil, we'll give them a bit of a mix, and just do keep mixing that until the onions begin to brown very slightly. We'll come back to you when these onions are browned. Okay, so these are browned enough now, so what I'm going to do is add the next part of the ingredients, and to this we need to add 1 teaspoon of red chili powder, half a teaspoon of turmeric powder, 1 teaspoon of cooking salt. We'll just add that now. Yeah, 1 teaspoon of cooking salt, and for this moment in time, one last thing, it'll be the red chili flakes, and for red chili flakes we'll be adding 2 teaspoons of them as well. 1 and 2. Give that a really nice mix, which we'll do now. And I always keep a tiny bit of water handy in a glass, just in case the mixture begins to stick to the bottom of the pan. So you can always add a little dash of water in there if you need to. At the moment this is okay, there's nothing sticking at all. We'll give that a bit of a mix. Make sure you've got any windows open or anything like that, because these spices do really stick to your clothing and stuff like that, so you want to make sure it's quite aerated in the room when you're cooking. I'm just going to add a little dash of water to that, just to allow the onions to soften. We add a bit of water, not only does it allow it to stick, it allows the onions to cook through a bit and start softening and breaking down. Okay, next to this I'm going to add some crushed ginger and some crushed garlic that I've already freshly made. So what you want to do is add 1 teaspoon of crushed ginger and 2 teaspoons of your garlic. So 1 and that's your second spoon there. You can get the garlic and ginger as crushed mix jars if you want, directly from the supermarket, but we always find it's always better to freshly crush them at home. Just use a mortar pestle if you want to do that. Crush them down and it just tastes a lot better in the curry itself. Give that a nice little mix. Just going to add another dash of water in there. There we go. And just to soften these onions a bit further to prevent them burning. Next, what I'm going to add are some tomatoes. I've got 2 large tomatoes here that we've chopped. This will introduce some water into there as well. We want to make sure we dry some of that water out. I'll pop them in there first. That will add a bit of water into there and give that a nice mix and let them start to break down in this mixture. Okay, you can see most of the water has reduced down now. You can see the oil bubbles coming to the top surface. We're going to add the next set of ingredients. I've got here 5 green chilies which we've sliced lengthways. You can put less than this if you want, but it all depends on how chilly they actually are. So something we test. These are actually not as strong, so we're going for 5 chilies in this case. I'll pop them in now. To that we'll add our fresh coriander. Sorry, not fresh coriander, apologies. I'm going to add to it dry coriander powder. That is 1 teaspoon of dry coriander powder to this. Give that a quick mix. And I'm going to now introduce and add the black-eyed beans. The 400 grams, we've drained it, so we've taken it out of the water and we've allowed these to drain. Remember, these are half boiled that we pre-prepared before. I'm going to add them in here, give this a really nice mix, and while these are actually starting to cook partly in this dish, you need to go ahead and boil 1 litre of water in a kettle, because that will be needed for the next part in this recipe. So I will let you know how long this has been and how long we've kept this on for at this moment in time. Prepare the boiling water. You need 1 litre of boiling water for the next part, and we'll come back to you when we are ready to add the water. It's been approximately now about 13 to 14 minutes that's been softening up and on heat. I've added a splash of water twice to this to prevent the beans from actually sticking to the bottom of the pan. But at this stage now, you're going to get your 1 litre of water that you boiled beforehand, and you need to add that in to the pan. The fact that we boiled it will allow this to start boiling a bit quicker anyway. It saves time in the cooking. I'll give this a mix, I can see straight away that the water is already starting to boil. It has to slow down a tiny bit as I've mixed that. We want to bring this to a boil first, and then we'll put a lid on top of the pan once we've brought it to a boil, and we'll then we'll let you know how long it's been before we come back to this, because we want to reduce that water down. So I'm going to go ahead now, it's boiling already. I'm going to go ahead, pop a lid onto the pan, and we will come back to you soon and show you, let you know how long it's been and show you where we're at that stage. So it's been 15 minutes now. I'll just let you know if we know that this is actually ready. You can see a lot of the water has reduced down. You're beginning to see the black-eyed beans coming up to the surface. What you need to do is, and I'll just very quickly show you with one, they'll be relatively hot, so be really careful. Even if you do pull one out, just make sure it doesn't actually burn your hands. So I'm just popping one bean to the side over there, let it cool down very slightly, and then just show you in shot. So in shot, I'll just show you over here. You can see that when I press it, it just comes to a nice little mush over there. That's what you're looking for over there. Now what we're going to do to this, now as the water boils, we want most of the water to disappear. We normally leave it quite liquidy in the curry, and I will talk about what you can actually do with that. If you can actually reduce the water down further if you wish, but normally I find with a dish this big and how much it serves, even if you've had a meal for one night, you can pop the rest into the fridge, and it actually tastes much better the second time or the third time you reheat this once it's come out of the fridge. So if you leave it in the fridge overnight and have it again, it really thickens up, the sauce thickens up, and it tastes much better. So we are going to remove this, we are not going to reduce this any further. What I am going to do to this now though is I'm going to add some of the fresh coriander. That's 50 grams of it. So I'll pop that into there, and I'm going to add to that 1 teaspoon of jeera, which is your cumin powder. So we'll add that now. That's the last thing we're going to add. There you go, so the jeera powder in. Give that a really nice mix. I'm going to drop this onto a I'm going to drop it onto a low heat actually for approximately a minute. I will pop the lid back on in a second, so let's just drop this onto a nice low heat, so only for a minute now, and it'll be ready. So there we go, and I'll pop the lid back on. You're going to leave that for a minute, then switch off take it off heat, and we're done. So here you go, absolute amazing dish over here. What I would suggest before I go to get my parents' approval, just a quick note on this. It's really nice when you eat it freshly, when it's made there and then. But if you are to pop it into the freezer or fridge, it allows the sauce to thicken really well. And when you come back to reheating it, it tastes absolutely amazing. Okay, time to get my parents' seal of approval. My parents absolutely love that dish, so seal of approval met. For many more of my recipes, please make sure you subscribe to the channel, click that notification bell, and I will see you soon.